Stand-up led me to acting because I like stand-up, and I saw people on a stage, and the closest, nearest thing to me was doing plays. It was like, that's the same thing as stand-up. People are on a stage. They're being seen and saying things, so, because of my love of stand-up, I moved towards acting. When I have these negative thoughts and feelings, I like to dig into them because I like to get under them and see what's in there. When it comes to politics, comedians read between the lines and see hypocrisies and half-truths, and we report those things to regular people who go, "I noticed that, too," or "You're right, that doesn't make sense." 1% of all comics ever reach the level of a Chris Rock or a Jerry Seinfeld. When audiences come to the underground rooms, they have a chance to watch the process that happens along the way and see the comedians grow. If we don't talk about the things that are happening, why are we talking about anything at all? Does something have to be a year old for me to have an opinion on it or a conversation with people about it? New York is looked at as the grad school of comedy. What I am trying to do is create a space for people to explore what they want to be, as opposed to fit into a label that they have been given. Black people have to define who we are, or others do it for us. The smaller an audience is, the more self-conscious they are. People are always looking at each other to see who is laughing, because the thing about laughter is that it exposes who you are. What makes a good festival, above all, is the audience. It feels disconnected when it's meant to bring in people from elsewhere and not meant for the people who actually live there. Comedians are always narrating the story of the people. Always. When I'm watching Tom Servo, I don't feel like I'm in my own body. I'm just reacting and saying what the character in front of me would say. I like that part of the culture of MSC3K is this constant dialogue on what movies could be done and what movies should be done. I've seen plenty of bad movies and walked out afterward thinking that would have been perfect for MSC3K. In other places, especially in Boston, it's like a place where comedy gestates. People come out of there that are fantastic. But you have to come to New York or LA to quote-unquote make it. I was in the middle of filming season 3 of Grace and Frankie. Then the writing process for Mystery Science Theater 3000 was happening at the exact same time. And then the pre-production for Fatherless was happening at the exact same time as well. I come back to Vegas pretty regularly, quick visits, and I usually just kind of lay low, see my mom, and then get out of there. But every now and then, I'm able to kind of come for extended stays and see some people. As long as the world keeps spinning, I'll keep riffing. When things get stressful and crazy and you think to yourself, when will this get easier? It won't, because that's what a career feels like. Anxiety is your creativity turned into a weapon that you use to beat yourself up. And this is because anxiety is mostly storytelling, repeating poisonous stories that you've inherited from others. It feeds on your fear. Instead of letting anxiety run you, try voicing it. Voice it in your comedy. Voice it in a script. Just voice it, and it'll help you release it. Worry less about having to fit, and focus more on what you want to make. This will always serve you. Shows like Empire, Blackish, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder are expanding viewers' perspectives on what people of color can be like. They're showing more range. They're showing more diversity within diversity. It seems that people are tired of everyone looking the same on television. And this seems especially true for white people. Even white people are tired of watching the same white people. That's why we've been importing them from Australia. Until recently, Hollywood offered only a handful of roles to actors of color. The majority of my opportunities have fallen into two categories: scary black and funny black. Plenty of black people that I know have been on SNL, and they haven't been utilized to the best of their abilities. With storytelling, you have to see yourself as the hero in the movie of your own life, and I kind of see myself as a supporting role, a walk-on role that has 5 lines. I say, "Mr. President, the Russians are here." That's how I see myself. I think Ferguson is underrated. I think it's an amazing show. They all have something different to offer. But I think Craig Ferguson has one of the most interesting monologues in late night because he basically does stand up. In a way, you just can't predict a perfect movie for MST3K. In New Mexico, my local church did a nativity play, and I was cast as Wise Man number 3. Of course, Wise Man number 3 had no down lines. Wise Man number 1 had all the lines. I stood there thinking, I could do that role so much better. From that moment on, I knew I wanted to be an actor. I used to watch a lot of Nick at Night as a kid, and it would play the original Saturday Night Live, The Carol Burnett Show, and Laugh-In. My first impression of Jane Fonda was she is a queen. She is royalty. She walks into the room, any room, and has this presence about her that demands respect. I think we have a lot to learn from ancient cultures and different tribes. I've always been a comedy nerd, and Partners in Crime was probably more influential for me than anything else because it was not only stand-up, but Robert Townsend had those short films. You can't erase Bill Cosby's contributions. That's the conflict. He's one of the most influential comedians of all time, and The Cosby Show is one of the most influential sitcoms ever. When I watched as a kid, I wanted Cliff to be my dad. Everybody did. I actually wanted to study acting in a way that not a lot of people want to do anymore. And I wanted to go to college and pay lots of money to do it. I wanted to go to theater school. When you're working on a TV show, your schedule can be very unpredictable, which means it's harder to book shows. We are constantly consuming entertainment. We treat celebrities like role models and royalty. Sometimes destructive behavior gets ignored, or sometimes the pressure breaks them. One time, I was really close to Steve Martin. I was too afraid to actually go talk to him, but I'll count that as meeting. The only thing I've ever stolen are hours out of people's lives with meandering conversations. I was really into ska. It was a long time before I understood what the word specific was. I remember being a kid and thinking it was Pacific, and being like, can you be more Pacific? And I believed that for maybe 5-6 years until someone was like, it's specific. I guarantee you that Leonardo Prince is doing nothing but listening to the Tron Legacy soundtrack on loop. And he's probably seen Tron Legacy twice or 3 times. And the other 2 times, he's taken people who he thinks are important to him and judged by their reaction to see if he should still be friends with them or not. If you live with a certain amount of dread for your own personal safety every day, that is anxiety. I was always just like, stand-ups are making it up. A lot of people have that myth about stand-up. And so it wasn't until I was in college for theater school in Boston that I realized I can actually start going to open mics and figuring this out. I think any good stand-up or actor is part philosopher, part psychologist and sociologist, because you're constantly recreating behaviors. Here's the best place that people can find me. Go to this website called Google, and then type my name into it. So much stuff. I grew up on a very specific diet of certain weird movies. Of course, being black, there are more black movies in there. I'll get to bring some of those references into Mystery Science Theater 3000. The name of my first comedy album was Raised by Cable. Coming up and watching all of these weird movies on different channels was such an influence on me and an influence on how I do stand-up. It informs everything I do. I've always been a big fan of entertainment. Having cable gave me access to HBO, Showtime, and the Movie Channel. Constantly taking in all these films from different eras and different styles has really given me a good vocabulary in how to talk about movies. I'm a big fan of PlayStation 4. I like watching movies, TV shows, comedy specials, and listening to comedy albums and music. I'm also a big fan of getting coffee with a friend or catching up on the phone with people I've known for years. People who keep me grounded, who knew me before. I had a gentleman steal or misplace, I guess I should say, allegedly, a lot of money from me. It didn't make any sense when it was happening, because I just didn't understand why I didn't have any money. I was a perfect mark, because I had all of the shame and insecurity about money. I don't mean to make a generalization, but I do at the same time. From what I know about people from the Midwest, it seems like their families would talk about money openly in front of them when they were kids. They'd say stuff like, "We're broke. We're gonna lose the house." Every podcast network has a different culture as far as I can tell. How they run things at Nerdist is totally different than how they run things at Earwolf is totally different than All Things Comedy or Maximum Fun or Feral Audio. And it's different if it's independent. I'm waiting for some studio to be like, "Look, we need you to be totes buff." I'm sorry, what did you say? Totes buff. We're gonna get you a trainer. And I'm like, oh, awesome. I've been waiting for this moment. I would love to get in shape for a reason besides my own health and life. Theater school is essentially like training. It's boot camp. It's like an academy to put you through all these different situations that sometimes are more extreme than what you'll come across in the field. But now you're emotionally prepared for it so that when it does happen, it's not a big surprise. When the audience reacts all together, it's genius. The audience is its own being in a way. It's a weird, amorphous beast that is also somehow a golden emperor that is also somehow every adult you've ever come across in your life who doesn't approve of you all in one place. In this age of the internet, if you are going to go see someone, you usually look them up first. It can be an advantage and disadvantage. Most of the time, people can Google you and see a couple clips and say, "Oh, I am going to go." They can kind of co-sign off on you.